freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 269 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. A happy new year to everyone. We're excited to be back from our hiatus that we took over the long holiday season. And we are brought to you by azfirearms.com, your nationwide hometown gun shop. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. Our guests are, first of all, our theme is New Year, New Challenges. And our guest today is Jeff Knox. Jeff is a director of the Firearms Coalition. He is a second-generation rights activist following the footsteps of his father, gun rights legend Neal Knox. And when I hear that name, there should be cheering going on. He spent 40 years in the trenches of the gun rights battle. Jeff is a regular columnist and contributor to a variety of print and online publications. He, along with his brother Chris, maintain firearmscoalition.org.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. Yes, welcome back to the show, Jeff.
Always my pleasure, Cheryl. Danny, it's good to be with you.
Yeah, this is a very interesting time we find ourselves in our American history. And, you know, there's a saying out there that, may you live in interesting times. Some people say it's a blessing, but a lot of people say it's actually a curse. So we're trying to figure that out ourselves.
No, it's not just interesting times, it's scary times. The things that are going on right now, the division in the country, it's a scary time. And it's interesting that the deep divides are based on one side pointing at the other and saying, you're being divisive, you're being divisive. I recently heard someone comment that they had heard a comment from a what's his name, Pennsylvania Senator Toomey. I think it was Toomey that said that nobody ever comes to me not wanting something. They always want the government to give them something. And I said, well, he's talked to gun guys because we don't want anything. We want you to leave us alone. Respect the Second Amendment and leave us alone. And we are the only lobbying group out there that's what we want. We just want government to leave us alone and quit blaming us for what other people do. But there are 3 or 4 issues in the United States that people have decided are lines in the sand that no one shall cross. And gun rights is one of those. Then you've, of course, got the abortion issue and immigration and foreign wars and things of that nature. And of course, economics. Should we spend a whole bunch of money, of other people's money, or should we let people keep their own money and spend it as they see fit? And those, they seem kind of just maybe not, shouldn't be such huge issues, but they are. People have decided that absolutely this is where I'm drawing the line in the sand. And now we've got active government and Silicon Valley censorship of anything and everything that isn't part of their agenda. And it's criminal, it's a shame, and it's a serious problem. And I'm very worried, disheartened, frustrated not quite packing up the kit bag and heading out to muster yet. But goodness, it is a mess.
Yeah, it is, Jeff. You know, we were told when I was a kid, we were told, you know, if you want to make changes, you vote
Mm-hmm.
and you talk to your congressman. It was
Mm-hmm.
pounded in me. Your dad pounded in people. Everybody pounded in everybody that we are a voice. We need to go to our the politicians and tell them where we stand, and we also need to vote. And it's scary now because there are people out there in this world that don't believe that our voting is accurate as it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this
And
is the. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
and they're also, yeah, you know, they're doing everything they can to talk to the politicians, and the politicians don't seem to be listening to us.
Right. Absolutely. And the thing about the vote, um, it it frustrates me. My side. I'm along with being a gun rights activist. I'm a conservative Republican, um, and have been my whole life. The um, the focus should have been all through the last couple of years. The focus should have been election integrity. We have to be sure that the American people can trust their election, that they feel comfortable with the election, that they understand that the process is good and solid. I saw, who is that idiot on HBO, with last week's News Tonight? Anyway, the British guy who's so smarmy and smart alecky, and he did in November of 2019 a review of election risks, the fraud that is potentially there, and actually even pointed out Georgia specifically, that they use this type of machine, that a major flaw and vulnerability in this particular type of machine was detected by some professor, and a patch was sent out, and Georgia had never bothered to implement the patch to fix their software and make it more resistant to vulnerability, tampering, whatever. This, and we have to keep on this right now, because somewhere close to half of the U.S. population believes that there was serious chicanery in this last election. And when you have close to half of the people believing that their vote isn't counting, didn't count, um, that's a serious, serious problem. And everyone on both sides should be saying this is something that we need to address. We need to prove that this election was fair and correct, and that people's votes weren't stolen. But instead, the Democrats have declared that everything is perfectly fine. This was the most secure election in history, and we're not going to look back at it. We're not going to audit anything. We're not going to verify anything. We're just going to move forward from here. And I personally have a serious problem with that. And unfortunately, too many people on our side who have a serious problem with that have decided that it's time to start the next revolution, the next civil war. That's foolish. That's a huge mistake. And the storming of the Capitol building is an example of what I've been saying for over a decade, that if we misbehave in any way whatsoever, it's going to backlash on us and our movement terribly, and it's going to set us back years every time that there's any sort of thing like that. And we saw it so clearly with this storming of the Capitol building, how we're being punished for that.
I think you're speaking an awful lot of truth there, Jeff, and it is a frustrating thing that, we saw all summer long so much bad behavior
Mhm.
all across the nation. People burning down, individual businesses and buildings, and attacking police cars and all that sort of thing.
Shooting
And
security guards, shooting people who were standing in front of buildings, trying to
yes,
protect them.
Yes. And so
Murdering,
then,
I think there was something like, I forget the number, uh, over a dozen people murdered
mhm.
in the process of these mostly peaceful protests over the summer.
Yes. And then, there's quote after quote of high profile elected officials that are actually saying, yes, there should be more of this going on the left side, the political left side. And so, then as you say, for some reason, if there's any impropriety of any kind, any misbehavior, or even the appearance of misbehavior on the side of the political right, it the treatment of it, the narrative of it is
Mhm.
so very, very different. And I mean, you and I both probably ascribe to, those with whom much has been given, much responsibility is expected. It's a
Mhm.
bad paraphrase, but I think that's probably why it's somewhat different. But I tried to, maybe not in the most eloquent of terms, tried to draw a line very carefully, because we don't still, even today, we're sitting in the studio on January 11th of 2021. We still today don't really even know exactly what happened at the Capitol, who did what, who the bad actors were, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
And people are feeling a lot about it. They're thinking less than what they're feeling. And so I'm trying to draw this line as carefully as I can, that when someone, for example, misuses a firearm and they disrespect human life and they go out there and they do horrible things, there seems to be this rush for everyone to agree that not only was that bad and wrong, but everyone who is in any way associated, a gun owner of any kind, someone who owns a gun store, someone who supports the Second Amendment, that they're all somehow culpable, and their behavior is likened to that. Now we have this situation at the Capitol, and there were bad actors, there were horrible things that took place, but for there to be this rush that we all have to agree that if you were even in the Capitol that day, much less inside the building and doing wrong things, somehow we're supposed to all agree that that is the same. Everyone
Mhm.
there had the exact same motivation and is
Mhm.
responsible for any of the bad behavior. And that I cannot participate in. And we spend all this time and energy trying to separate out in the firearms community. Individual behavior should be held individually accountable and responsible. And so I do expound on that into other areas. And it's like, we can't even say, uh, I'm going to run to the store for some milk and eggs without first having declared, what happened at the Capitol I condemn completely. It's like we've gone
Mhm.
completely over the top, and we can't even put a paragraph together without prefacing it with how we feel about the worst of the things that happened at the Capitol. Anyway, that was
Mhm.
a long diatribe. I apologize for taking so long to get to that. But it's just frustrating for those of us like you and us who are trying to help people unpack and make sense of the stuff that's being shoved down our throats through the
Mhm.
vast majority of the media.
Well, Cheryl, for well over a decade, I've been running the Firearms Coalition since my father died in 2005. So, what is that, 15, 16 years? And we're actually coming up on the anniversary of his passing. I noticed over at guncalendars.com, um, just a shocking reminder, that wow, we're just a week away from that anniversary. But um, in the time that I've been writing about Second Amendment issues and writing about this, there's always been a theme when I write about politics, direct politics, about electing people who will represent us or blocking people who are direct enemies to the Second Amendment, there's always someone down in the comments saying the time for voting is over. We need to take action. It's time to, to get out there and go with our guns and straighten these guys out. And for crying out loud, people, I got in a huge argument with Mike Vanderboog. We had a running battle for almost a year long because I wrote an article about the fallacy of the next revolution and the people who were pushing it. And Mike, who was the founder of the 3% movement and was not a nice man. We ended up on good terms. Mike and I got along fine, but he was very abrupt and very rough. And it turned out that we were both saying pretty much the same thing. We were saying it in slightly different ways. He was saying no Fort Sumters. We can't fire the first shot. We have to stand back, keep your powder dry and hold back. And I'm saying, look, if you guys are more interested in stockpiling ammo than you are in stockpiling votes, then you're part of the problem. If you're not willing to go out and vote and get your friends, your family out voting, if you're not willing to do the work required to elect people that aren't going to be attacking us, then you're going to be attacked, and you're helping to foment the revolution, and you have no idea what comes next. You have no idea. These guys who want to start the boogaloo have no plan whatsoever for the next step. It's okay, we go blow something up, we go shoot somebody, we line up on the Boston Common and let the British soldiers shoot some of us. Then what? And it's like the people who stormed the Capitol. Then what? We raced in and destroyed the public property, destroyed historical stuff, hurt people, killed at least one DC police officer, Capitol policeman. And I find it interesting that the media has been quick to name several of the people that were involved in other aspects of the problems that day, but the person who supposedly hit the police officer with a fire extinguisher hasn't been named. Nobody has come up with any video or a name for that person or a history for that person. I hope and pray that it wasn't one of ours. I hope and pray that it wasn't someone who just got carried away and was one of the instigators from the other was playing. Know what's happening, but we can't blame everything that happened there on people from the other side playing in our sandbox, pretending to be our people. No, these were hardcore Trump supporters who got carried away, and whether they were led away by, I personally, I don't care what kind of baseball cap and flag the punk kid next to me is waving. I'm not following him into the fire, and these people did. Whether they led it or they followed or whatever they did it. It was a mistake, and we're feeling the repercussions now. Of course, the things going on this summer, those were mostly protests, and if you call it a mob or a riot, you were racist. And no, it had no impact on COVID whatsoever. They're that silly. You people are just crazy. But of course, this was a mob engaging in a riot in DC. All of the tens of thousands of people who were there are part of the mob, and everyone is painted with that same brush now in the media, because that's the way the media works now, and it's criminal, and they keep pushing, and you are going to get the outer fringes are going to engage, and I'm very worried about that, because just makes our job so much harder when
Yes.
someone out on our flank is blowing off cannons, and
Mhm.
we have to fight our political battles through their smoke, and
Yeah.
that's a huge problem.
You know, I've been watching these riots that we've been seeing all year long, and you look at a person, or there's usually a group of 3 or 4 people that are breaking in the windows and going in the stores, and then the others follow. They had no intentions of going into those stores, but it's a mob mentality. They follow them in there. And some of the things that confuse me about this Capitol thing, because if I could have been at the Capitol, I would have been there. I
Hmm.
wouldn't have walked into the building. I would not have trespassed, but I would have been a voice for the Second Amendment community. And it's
Hmm.
very saddened to me that we see what happened, but I question it because right at the time that
They were going
Cruz
to
was
debate
going to debate
the Arizona,
Arizona,
what we actually have been waiting for and wanting.
at that moment, at
That's when
that
it gets disrupted.
particular moment,
It
then they
just seems
disrupt it.
odd to
Hmm.
And
me.
and to me, that we have seen in the past where people were paid to cause problems at these petition, or, people riding or whatever, not riding with their having a group. What do they call it?
The mostly peaceful protest.
Mostly peaceful protests, and they paid them to to be uh, to be violent,
Obnoxious, to cause
right?
trouble, to
And
be troublemakers. Yeah.
for the timing of this and everything else, I can't think that. Yes, I agree that people shouldn't have followed them in the building, but
Hmm.
I, first of all, there was nobody in the Second Amendment community that was high profile that was caught going through those doors
That we know of,
that
yeah.
we know of. So far. We don't know,
Right.
and I honestly think that people were paid to disrupt
And
that.
it's possible, but again, what are we about? We are about
Right.
individual liberties, and so therefore we are about individual responsibility.
There are thousands of
So
people that
I
did not go into the Capitol. You saw them
exactly.
out in the street.
Tens of thousands,
Yes,
and who
Thank
were
that
you.
didn't.
calling for these people to stop. They
Yes.
they were they were saying, "We're not Antifa. Don't behave that way. This isn't
Yes.
us. Stop him. Stop that.
Yes.
Don't do that." A guy tackled a guy who was breaking windows,
Yes.
and pulled him away, and the crowd cheered. And you don't see any of that in
No.
mainstream media at all.
No.
And that's intentional. And this is where the real problem lies: is that is intentional. My father used to be a newspaperman down in Texas, and he was an investigative reporter. And one of the unwritten rules for his newspaper, and this is in the early 60s, and one of the unwritten rules for his newspaper was a black man does not appear, a photograph of a black man does not appear in my newspaper unless he's in handcuffs.
Mm.
And
Wow.
that's the exact that is going on right now. A conservative does not appear on the media um, in in, to, in today's media unless they are behaving badly, unless there's something that you can say, oh, that's wrong, that's bad. And that's what we've got going on. They are selective in what they're presenting. They're only presenting the bad. They're in some cases generating the bad,
Mhm.
but or exacerbating it, making it look worse than it really, and painting everyone with that brush. And if there's good, you can't show that because that would disagree with their narrative, and you can't
So
have
true.
that. So that's where
So
we are
true.
right now, and it's a shame.
It is. So our episode today is called New Year, New Challenges. Clearly, we have some challenges that we've just been talking about. How do we move forward from all of this stuff that just happened? But specifically, assuming that on January 20th, just a few days from right now, that Biden Harris, or is it Harris Biden? They can't seem to decide that.
It's on
Uh,
the way.
will be inaugurated. And along with them, they have already written a whole bunch of stuff that they want to introduce into law that will impact our individual liberties. I pulled up a quick screenshot that our friend Beth Alcazar, Pacifiers and Peacemakers, posted up. Um, HR 121, they're hiring 200 additional ATF agents. Now, that all by itself, that may not be a bad thing, right? Sometimes we get frustrated at how long it takes them to process things. So perhaps that's not horrible. HR 125 to amend Title 18 to provide the 7-day waiting period before semi-automatic firearms, armor-piercing ammunition, large capacity ammunition magazine, whatever that is, because their large is probably our standard, right? Is it a venti? Is it a a small, what is it? Um, the HR 127 to provide for licensing of firearm and ammunition possession and the registration of firearms and to prohibit the possession of certain ammunition. And then HR 130 requires safe storage of firearms and ammunition and require investigation of reports of improper storage of firearms and ammunition. And HR 167 to prohibit the transfer of a firearm at a gun show by a person who is not a federally licensed firearm dealer. So this is just a quick little, a little snack, a little handful. And this
And
is
in fairness, Cheryl, all of these, or most of them, have been introduced before. They're not new. This is coming from Bobby Rush and Sheila Jack Lee, and they're the usual suspects, the usual nonsense that they spout. The difference this year is that Democrats control the House, Democrats control the Senate, Democrats control the White House, or will soon. And that's very concerning and problematic. But realistically, unless they are able to convince Joe Manchin and possibly a couple of the other Democrats to go along with the nuclear option in destroying the filibuster completely in the Senate, then they're not going to be able to pass most any of this stuff. So everyone write a letter to Joe Manchin of West Virginia and tell him to stick by his guns and stand up for the Senate and stand up for the people, and insist that the rules continue as they are, so that these really controversial issues into requiring 60 votes to be passed instead of 50 votes plus Kamala Harris. It's racist of me not to be able to pronounce her name correctly, even though I have a niece named Kamala that I've been saying for 30 years, and so now it's wrong. I have to change it. But at any rate, that's the thing, is that if they can get Manchin to give in, then what they'll do is they'll do away with the filibuster. They will then shove through making the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico states, which will mean 4 new Democrat senators, because District of Columbia and Puerto Rico are both hardcore Democrat districts, areas, and we would never see a Republican come out of either one of those places. And the judiciary would be packed up, and all of that. But all of that depends on like Manchin standing firm on the historical significance of the Senate and the historical rules of the Senate, and we'll see what happens. From our side of it, I think that we should, in response, be loading them up with serious reform legislation, repeal of the GCA, repeal of the NA, an omnibus Second Amendment Restoration Act that incorporates the Hearing Protection Act, the National Reciprocity Bill, addresses things like access to wilderness areas, and access to hunting grounds, protects fisheries. All of these things we need to be pushing aggressively, even if we know that we can't pass them, that they have to spend time and money and effort in defending against them rather than just having free reign to throw whatever they want at our wall and see what they can make stick. I think that probably the biggest risk we're facing right now is going to be on immigration, and that because Republicans are likely to fold on the immigration issue, and that's a big problem. But most importantly is that we're going to see executive orders that BA is going to come out of their hole in a big way, and we're going to see 80% receivers, and we're going to see braces, pistol braces, suddenly declared to be illegal somehow, some way, and be contraband and be confiscated. And it's going to lead to, we have to save lives, so we're going to go kill people to take away their property that they have lawfully and peacefully owned for years. And that's what we're about to see. And when that starts happening, people will kill them back, and it will be a shame, and it will be terrible, and I don't know how to stop it. Like I said in the opening, we just want people to leave us alone. And a lot of our people are willing to stand firm and shoot back if they won't leave us alone. And that's where we're heading. And I don't see a way to avoid it. I'm going to continue trying. I'm going to continue working to get political resolution these issues, but we are in a very scary time.
Well, I want to address this a little bit. There's a lot of people that are terrified out there. There's a lot of people that are gun owners that are absolutely terrified. Now they say, okay, the Senate and the House is overwhelmed by Democrats, we're in trouble. And I kind of look deeper than that to try to really understand what's going on. And first of all, it takes a long time to change laws, and it takes a majority, which there's many Democrats now that are gun owners. That, and I'm encouraged with the amount of uneducated, as far as politically, that have bought guns in the last 5 or 6 months. In other words, they don't care about politics. They just wanted to come to buy a gun. And when they bought the gun, they realized that there are obstacles that they have to overcome because of laws.
Oh, come on. It's easier than buying a book.
Oh, sure is. So those people are going, well, wait, I didn't know that. And we say, well, you got to talk to your politicians. They're the ones that made these changes. And hopefully, Jeff, we can get to those people. They're mostly Democrats that didn't care about guns, so it didn't bother them, but now they own a gun. And some of them, as you know, once you fire a firearm, you fall in love with it, and then all of a sudden you have 10 and then 20. And so we may be able to get some of the Democrat thinking to be more about guns than what it was 3 years ago.
I would hope so. But one of the things is that people, they come in and they buy their Glock 19 from azfirearms.com, and they say, yeah, this is a great gun. I enjoy shooting it. I have to do all of these hoops. Well, in California, you couldn't buy this Gen 5 because you can't buy one in California. It's not on their safe gun roster. Right. You can't buy this version because it's two-tone and they didn't spend the money to get it certified. You can't have this magazine, that standard capacity magazine, in these states because they hold too many bullets. These people will say, well, no, I just want a pistol to protect my family, and they should ban assault weapons. Well, sorry, according to them, that is an assault weapon. What you're holding in your hand, the pistol that you're holding in your hand, is an assault weapon, according to the people who are trying to pass these laws. Right. And according to California, and according to New Jersey and New York. So this is what they don't understand. And this is one of the critical things that a drum that I've been for a long time. And thank you for having Dad's book right there up front. because history is really important. People
Mm-hmm.
understanding the history of the gun rights movement, the
Mm-hmm.
history of where we've been and what we've done. There's a reason why we can't be reasonable and won't be reasonable and go along with their common sense uh, BS. We've
Mm-hmm.
been there, we've done that. We've got the bruises to prove it. Um, we tried to play ball in their court the way they wanted to. We went along with a bunch of restrictions and regulations, and instead of going after bad guys with guns, they came after us.
Yeah.
And that's what they did in 1934. That's what they did in 1968.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they continue to do now. They vilify us. They come after us because we're easier targets than bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
First, there aren't as many bad guys in the pond. There's
Mm-hmm.
only a few that are doing 90% of what's going on that's bad out there with guns. And finding them, they hide. They don't want to be seen or caught or found. And so um, it's difficult. It's much easier to find someone who put AZ instead of Arizona
Hmm.
on their form 4473, or Y and N instead of yes and no on the 4473, and put them in jail. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's much easier, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And actually, the inspector general for the DOJ caused a lot of these problems because employees at ATF complained that there wasn't objective criteria for their promotions and so forth. And so G looked at it and said, "Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. There has to be objective criteria. Promotions should be based on time in service, time in grade, and number of prosecutions and successful prosecutions, and basically the number of tickets that you write. If
Mm-hmm.
you tell a cop that he only gets promoted, he writes more traffic tickets, that cop is going to write more traffic tickets, and he's going to be less likely to say, hey, you were a little fast, you need to slow it down, here's a warning. That's not going to happen anymore if his money depends on him writing that ticket. And
Yes.
that's what the inspector general did with the BATFE, and that's where we got Fast and Furious, was
Mm-hmm.
directly from the inspector general's report, and them saying, no, you have to have objective criteria for promoting people, and you have to have a train events that you can show for a gun before you prosecute the gun traffickers and smugglers. And so they did, and they tried, and they sent guns to Mexico so that they would have this trail of abuses that they could point to. It's ridiculous, and we're the targets. And that's the thing that we have to remember, is that we are, in all of these gun control laws, we are the targets. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the criminals, it's not the bad guys, it's us, it's the regular people. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the problem is. And it all comes down to knowing our history, understanding where we've been, what we've done, what we've already tried, and what we
Mm-hmm.
need to do now.
Well, Jeff, one of the easiest things to convict somebody of is when a person walks in the store, fills out a 4473, and puts that they're not a felon, and then they do a background check and find they're a felon and they're prohibited. The ATF doesn't go after them, and they have a piece of paper that is clearly evidence,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not pursuing that, but they're pursuing stupid stuff out there. So I understand with you, but I just want to say I think there is more hope, because some of the people that are buying guns, yes, they're just going to buy the guns, they're going to put them on their shelf, and they're going to forget about it. But there are people that are asking, hey, where do I get training? What can I do to help?
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing that. And it all families, a guy owns the guns, he gets his wife involved in guns. Now the wife likes guns. The wife's a bigger driver than he is, and now they have even more guns. We have to still have some hope out there. I remember when I was a kid and your dad was, the president of the NRA, and my dad was very active in trying to stop gun control too. If it wasn't for people like them, we wouldn't be talking guns right now. There wouldn't be any guns. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we at times that we thought things were hopeless. There was times that both the Democrats controlled both sides before, and we pulled through this. And what I'm trying to do is tell people there is still hope out there. We don't need to have 50,000 rounds of ammo loaded up and be ready for a fight. We need to still fight. The easiest way to fight is to get your friends involved in voting and talking to your politicians and being active in the second right community. That's easy. What's hard is trying to defend your life or your family's life with a bullet. That's
Absolutely.
what's hard.
Yeah,
and
so
it's not over.
It's not over, and we're unfortunately likely to see a number of martyrs in all of this before it is all. But yes, it's heartening that more Democrats are discovering firearms and are joining the ranks of firearms owners. And I hope and pray that these folks will push and recognize and support gun rights, support their rights, and yes, it's going to help. Once upon a time, there were pro-gun Democrats in Congress. Dennis DeConcini was a pro-gun Democrat for most of his career until he got wrapped up in the Keating 5 scandal, and suddenly he was toting water for gun control bills. And I suspect that it was a quid pro quo that okay, Dennis, if you want us to let you go on this, not sanctioned in the Senate, you have to cross the NRA. And so he did, and he carried water on the assault weapons ban bill. But it used to be ideal. My dream is that someday we can once again have pro-gun Democrats and pro-gun Republicans fight for the title of the most pro-gun, fighting for my support, fighting for your support, that they want your vote. The thing that keeps that from happening is that too many of us are within our community. Our community is not focused. We haven't since about 1986 when we finally passed the McClure-Volkmer Firearms Protection Act and got the Hughes Amendment tacked onto it. And we divided over that, and we have never come back together again. There are some in our movement that look at it very pragmatically, and they say, yes, this guy isn't ideal, but his opponent is a rabid anti-rights crazy person, so we're going to support this Republican who's not great in favor over this Democrat who's terrible. And we've got people on our team that say, no, this Republican's not great and we have to oppose him. Well, oppose him in the primaries, not during the general election. You have, it's tic-tac-toe. This is what I was saying this last year. It's not chess, it's not check, it's tic-tac-toe. Block that space. Even doesn't do you any good directly in getting your goals done. Block that space from the guy. Block that space from the person who can't win. And you're absolutely right, Danny. It is one of my great frustrations in life that these guys commenting on my columns at Ammo Land or in Firearms News will say, well, it's time for voting's over. No, it's not. Time for voting was last week, this week, next week. Time for voting never goes away. If we do eventually move to the cartridge box, that doesn't mean that the ballot box stops. Our founding fathers were sending emissaries to King George even as they lined up at Lexington and Concord. And after they lined up at Lexington and Concord, they were sending diplomats and representatives to speak with King George and to try and avoid what was coming. And when we had leaders back then, do we have leaders today? If we started the blue, who's going to be the leaders? Who's going to be the president? Who's going to be, we don't have a George Washington. We don't even have a Jefferson Davis, for crying out loud. We don't have, people can say, oh, Donald Trump. No, that's not a chance. We don't have uh, a plan. We don't have leaders. We don't have a strategy for winning a fight. And I personally don't want to throw my kids and my grandkids into that sort of a world. Let's fix it. And the way to fix it is to demand our rights, stand up for our rights, and vote, and bring your buddies, bring your spouses, bring your kids, your family, teach the Constitution, learn the Constitution, and follow the Constitution. That's, I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
And
think that's
preaching
the
to the
thing.
choir is absolutely valid, because preaching to the choir, if the choir doesn't know the words to the song, then you've got a problem. And so I encourage everyone, learn the words, learn the history, understand what we're up against and what we've done and what we need to do, and move forward.
Absolutely.
Because what we're doing now is running around in circles saying, no, no, no. Well, that doesn't get it. A clenched fist in the air saying shall not be infringed doesn't get it. We have to take action, and the action be political until they won't allow us to be political anymore.
Yeah, it really, the cultural battle is so important. And with this opportunity that we've been possibly afforded with 8 million plus brand new gun owners, it's not a guarantee that they're all going to, get on board with their rights and understand the Constitution, as we've already discussed. But it's an opportunity. And so if we can build from that, that might give us that leg up in the next few coming years. We need to start wrapping up, but I wanted to cover two very important topics.
We need a couple more hours, Cheryl. We need
Oh,
a
we
couple more
so do.
hours to go.
Always. Always. How many times after an event have we been the last two people or last three people sitting in the conference room, and they're taking the tablecloths off and rolling up the tables because we're just like exploring ideas together, and just because we have a microphone in front of us doesn't make that any different. We've got lots and lots that we always like to talk about.
You bet.
But you and I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to be actually on the lawn of the Capitol building, and somehow we all managed to behave ourselves and didn't storm the place. So, there's still hope for us. And at that time, the logo that I'm wearing came into being. Some awesome veteran folks sent this T-shirt to me, and all kinds of different patch and all kind of good stuff.
Oh.
And
I designed that logo, by the way.
you design. See, I never did learn that, and here I am wearing it. I love it.
It was kind of a committee thing, but it's my design.
I
So-
love it. And so the gentleman's name is Gunny. He's out of Florida, and he runs a group of veterans. They don't want any publicity. They don't have a website for me to promote so people can buy this cool T-shirt. But one of the pins they sent me is Christian American Patriot, CAP. And I love that they took this design that you and the folks that organized that first rally on the Capitol lawn in DC, and decided you wanted it to be open source. You wanted it to be available to anyone that wanted to use it, but use it well. And then here Gunny and his group have done that, and then sent me this T-shirt because the note they sent was that they had seen me at the Second Amendment rally, and they wanted me to have these small gifts of appreciation for what I and all the other patriots do. And it warms my heart, because right now I think our hearts need warmed, to feel good about the work that we're doing and the people that we associate with. And so at this rally that we partook in DC, you kept using the phrase, and it wasn't just at this rally, you use this phrase a lot. And the phrase is, you're talking to individual people, and you say, so often the words gun lobby are vilified in the media, and we're supposed to be looking at some big shadowy organization maybe or something. And you say to people, you individually, you are the gun lobby. for the 8 million plus brand new gun owners out there. What does that mean?
The gun lobby, and this is really critical. People, like you say, they get visions of big cigars, dark suits, smoky rooms, and big piles of cash being passed and stuck to politicians' pockets. And that's not what the gun lobby ever has been. The gun lobby is us. It is our votes. It's our action, and up to each of us individually. There are, whether it's my website, which is we're working on building a better communication system to your legislators right now, but Gun Owners of America, the Arizona Citizens Defense League, Virginia Citizens Defense League, your state grassroots organizations, some of the national groups, there are mechanisms where you can just go and here's a letter to your Congress critter that you can edit, you can change, or you can just leave it the way it is and put your name on the bottom of it and send it to both of your senators and your representative and the White House, if that's it, and the governor and the state legislature, whatever it is. We can do that kind of thing. And it's up to you, each individual, to do that. It's up to you to call your congressperson, to be a resource for them, to call up people like Nancy Pelosi and say, Nancy, oh my gosh, I love everything that you do, except why do you keep coming after the guns? I need my gun to protect family. Leave it alone. Stop it. Go do something better. We need that. We need that to happen to Chuck Schumer and Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi and all of this new crop of especially this new crop of Democratic politicians, that they hear that they have people that are voting for them, that are participating in the electoral process on their side, that don't like that and don't want them doing that. But beyond that, everybody else who maybe you don't lean Democrat, you don't lean Republican, you're a centrist, that's fine. This issue, though, it's the Constitution, it's your right. Pursue it and push it and call your congresspeople, write, emails to them and let them know this matters and please leave us alone. Stop trying to attack our gun rights. It's up to you. It's not money that makes a difference. It's votes, and you are the votes. You are the lobby. You are who moves it. So pick an organization or two, pick an information system or two, get your information, get your understanding, and move forward on letting your politicians know what they need to be doing.
Absolutely. And the other important issue I wanted to talk about before I let you go is that there is another rally being planned here in
coming up in February.
Our own state of Arizona at our Arizona State Capitol. Yes, February 20th. That's a Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you and I are going to, once again, 2 years in a row now, we're going to be co-MCs. And I just wanted to have you kind of touch on, why is it important to meet together during these times, during any time, but maybe especially during these times? And, what would you say to the people that are maybe clutching their pearls a little bit and saying, well, we can't meet together now because, look, we've been labeled as having bad behavior and I don't want any part of that. I can't possibly be any part of that. What would you say to all of that?
Well, there's always risk. And I'm not going to say that there isn't risk. There's always risk that someone will decide to make trouble, that someone will do something stupid, that something bad might happen, that somebody might catch a disease. I've heard there's one going around.
Really?
But
hadn't heard.
Yeah. Liberalism?
No, stop.
But the reality is that we have a history of coming together, armed and unarmed, um, expressing our views, uh, calling on our politicians to take particular actions, and leaving that space cleaner than it was when we got there,
Amen.
and in more orderly. And um, we have politicians that come down to our events, and they're thrilled to be there. They really want to get up there in front of our audience and our people, and let them know that they support them. Um, and it's a great time. And it's important for everybody to understand that they're not alone, that there are others who believe what they believe. And it's invigorating to be in the midst of a crowd like that, to really feel that energy and share that energy. It's really powerful. It's important, and I hope that everybody in Arizona, and if you're in nearby states, come on down. Or not nearby states. I don't get on a plane. We would love to have you. Um, I try and say hello to everybody
Hmm.
at these events, as does Cheryl and Danny. Um, we want to know you. We want you to know us, and we could certainly use your help. And so we encourage you to come down to the Arizona State Capitol, February 20 what
20th.
20th. Okay,
Yes.
February 20th, from what, 10 in the
10
morning,
a.m. to
10
2
a.m. until
p.m.
2 p.m.
Hmm.
See, I don't have any of this written in front of me. Cheryl has it prepared, so
It's
it's
my
not.
job.
Yeah, I just go where Cheryl tells me and do what Cheryl tells me to do. Um,
No, you
so
do an amazing job, and I am
we
so
have a lot of
excited that
fun.
you're going to be co-emceeing and helping me introduce some of the awesome speakers that we have. The lion's share of them are Arizonans who are
Hmm.
Arizona patriots who've been in this conversation for a long time, and then a few dignitaries coming in, such as Alan Gottlieb of the Second Amendment Foundation. He'll be
Who has a
coming
home
into
here
that.
in Arizona?
Absolutely. So,
Hmm.
anyway, well, we are way over time. I've got to let you go. Jeff Knox, thank you so much. Please tell folks how they can not only get this amazing book full of our Second Amendment history, um, with your dad's picture right here on the back, but also follow all the work that you do on a regular daily basis.
Well, as I say, we're in the process of revamping the website, but it doesn't look like it. It just doesn't look as updated as it probably ought to be. But you can visit our website at www.firearmscoalition.org, firearmscoalition.org. You can find my writing, usually a weekly column, at ammoland.com. I'm also frequently in Firearms News and firearmsnews.com. So, come out and say hi, and look forward to seeing you. We only get to see each other during special events. I don't know why it is. Usually, though, out of state. So it's going to be nice to be able to see you in state. I have to come down and visit Danny at azfirearms.com. That I've been needing to do that. We need to talk. I've got some guns that I want to sell.
All right.
So we
We're
have to do
there.
that.
I
But
know it's only about a 15-minute drive, but we can meet each
yeah.
other in Connecticut. We can see each other, but you know,
Yeah, yeah, but it's a
All right.
strain. So guys,
Jeff,
I appreciate it very much. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.
keep up the good
Absolutely.
work, Jeff. Thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. God
Bye bye.
bless. All right.
We have to wrap it up.
I know, we are over time. Our next guest is actually texting me
Yeah,
going,
let's.
trying to sign in.
Now's the time to say goodbye.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for all that you do. Thank you to our awesome guest, Jeff Knox. Thank you to our listeners. Praying that this new year brings us many awesome blessings. We've had some rough blessings, difficult lessons in the last year. So I'm hoping that all good things ahead. And honestly, we say this every show, but it's sincere and it's needed. Please pray for this nation. Pray for our elected officials. If you want to see them as leaders, then you can call them leaders. But they need your prayers, whether you like them or not.
Yeah, I'm going to go there with that. Just
Even
pray for him.
even the ones you don't
And
like.
let's give an extra prayer for Trump. He's really having a hard time right now.
especially especially even if you don't like him, right?
Right.
Because especially pray for the ones you don't like, and if you do like them, then you're probably
Double pray.
praying for them already.
Yeah.
And so that's why we give that challenge. Be good to each other, have an awesome week, and God bless.
God bless.